right, Todd. We talked about fasteners. Let's move on to flashing details. I'm sure there's some differences when you're comparing shingles to metal roofing. Typically speaking, with our underlayments and drip edge, what we're looking for as a manufacturer is you're always going to have the drip installed first, and the underlayment is then going to go over the top of that drip edge first. As it comes to rake details, it's the opposite. So we want to see the drip over the top of the underlayment on the rakes. So that pretty much covers drip. And when we're talking about our vertical wall transition details, so step flashings in particular, we always are looking for a minimum of 4 inches of the underlayment going up the vertical surface.
Sure.
And then when it comes to our pipe boot details, what we're seeing here with the underlayment right now, this is an acceptable method, but we actually have a 3-part spec that goes into this detail as a recommendation, not a requirement, but a recommendation where we would see this exact same detail, but with a self-adhered underlayment. So in lieu of this, we would have self-adhered. It would then be overlapped the way it's done here.
Sure.
We would then take some roofing cement around that pipe to make sure we're good to go. Again, not a requirement, just a recommendation,
Right.
But that's typically how we would see that detail flashed. So can you tell us if there's any differences or, what you would like to see as a
Sure.
manufacturer?
So very, very similar in most aspects. One thing we do that's a little bit different is we recommend bringing the underlayment down before the drip edge is put on. And what that accomplishes is it makes sure that we've covered the edge of that decking, which could protect that decking somewhat if there should be water that should come down and get underneath the drip. It would also protect the decking in some cases in terms of gutters that might fill up and water that starts to spill upward. So we like putting the underlayment on first. If someone is really, picky about something, they could also then put their drip edge on, and then they could put a strip of ice and water shield on top of the drip edge that would seal it to the underlayment as well. So certainly not a bad practice either. As far as bringing up the wall, very similar. One thing a little bit different with metal, we usually are not using step flashing. So as you can see on our demo wall here, we've got the reglet cut into the bricks, which that reglet then would have a lineal flashing that would be inserted into that in the case of a masonry wall. In the case of siding or something, we're going to bring the flashing up behind the siding and bring the house wrap and the siding down over on top of that. But very similar in terms of bringing the underlayment up the wall by 4 inches or so in order to have that up behind your flashing. I loved what you were saying as far as using the ice and water shield as the surround on the pipe, and we certainly show that as well. In this case, we're just showing a mechanically fastened synthetic underlayment, but same thing, we would then seal around the pipe. A lot of times for that pipe sealant rather than roofing cement, because we are thinking, very, very long term, a lot of times we'll use a butyl or a silicon sealant, perhaps the same sealant that will be used on the roof system that's compatible with the coatings on the roof system would be used then to seal that underlayment to the pipe as well. But just best practice is very similar to what you're familiar with.
Good deal. So one other detail on these wall details, so vertical transition from the deck to the wall, that 3-part spec that we talked about, we have the same recommendation on our wall details as well. So again, looking for like about 4 inches up the vertical surface and onto the deck about 12 inches. I mean, would you consider that a good practice with metal roofing as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I see nothing wrong with that at all. And in fact, I think it's a great recommendation.
Awesome.